The reason that men get so pissed off every time an OF girl comes out and says how much money she's made is because they don't like that women have found a way with OF to financially benefit in an insane way from a system that the male gaze and the patriarchy not only created but uphold.
Dating women these days is a minefield, and you'll see that for yourself in the first few clips I've got to share with you today. I don't want to waste any time, so get yourself a coffee so we can get into the mess.
Let me tell you how I literally had to delete Lyft because my Lyft driver literally texted the person that ordered my Lyft and said, "Yeah, King, keep your head up. She's not the one."
Damn, I wonder what she did to get that kind of response.
Yes, you heard it right. So, y'all, I get in my Lyft or whatever. You know, sometimes they be like, "Oh, how you doing? How your day going?" I'm like, "Oh, it's not going good." Mind y'all, it's about like 10 o'clock, 11, right? So a dude just ordered me an Uber because he wants me to come over, hang out, stuff like that. You get what I'm saying? I really don't want to go because I really don't like him. But I don't know how to express to him that I don't like him because he's so sweet.
This is one of the biggest problems with dating these days. It's like people don't know how to communicate anymore. I mean, even though she wasn't feeling this guy, she reluctantly agreed to spend time with him. Now, I don't know how into her this guy was, but from how she's telling this story, he's told her about how he feels, but she hasn't done the same.
That's gotta suck.
How far would she be willing to go along with this charade for? The longer she drags it out, the more painful it'd be for the guy down the road. In the clip, she said she was heading out to his place at around 10 or 11, which I assume is at night. And from where I'm standing, guys typically invite girls over to their place for one thing around that time. So what would she do if he made a move?
Don't touch me.
Trying to spare his feelings is easier in the moment, but it's much better to deal with your issues head-ons, rather than dragging your feet.
So the Uber driver is confiding to me. He's like, "Yeah, just talk to me. Let me know like what you don't like about him. See if I can help you out with do. I'm thinking that we have a brother and sister moment going on. Nah. Me not knowing he's a short king as well.
Why you gotta be like that?
You get what I'm saying? The person I'm talking to is short king. You're not really my type. You're not buff. No, I don't want it. So yeah, I'm sitting there talking to the Uber driver or whatever. You get what I'm saying? So while I'm texting him, I'm telling the Uber driver like, "Yeah, I just don't like him. I just don't see a future. He really likes me," stuff like this. I'm telling him what's going on. I'm explaining to him how I don't like him. He trying to give me solutions. Nothing's gonna work. A plus B is not going to go Y into Z. No. So yeah, at this point, we're getting close to our destination, right? So I'm texting bro, but bro's slowly texting me like, slow now. Like I'm telling him like, "Oh, okay, I'm finna be 5 minutes away." He's, "Oh."
The way girls are calling guys short kings so casually these days is wild. And you know they'd lose their minds if we started calling them overweight queens. I can't help but wonder if the guys ever picked up on how disinterested this woman is in pursuing anything with him. I mean, the way she said, "No, I don't want it," after describing her short king's physical features, almost came off as if she's truly disgusted.
All right, let me know. Mind y'all, minutes before that, he was just saying, "Oh, I can't wait to see you. It's been so long. I missed you. Whoop. Now, y'all, it's mad cold outside. Keep that in mind, okay? So now I'm pulling up, and the Uber driver just like, "Yeah. Well, I hope you have a good time, and I hope you at least let him know." He keeps saying that, like, "Oh, yeah, I hope you let him know. Give him signs at least. Don't waste his time." Y'all, why did I get outside the car? And I'm standing outside this man's house for 10 minutes, and he's telling me, "Nah, the Uber driver already let me know game, so call your Uber back home."
Damn!
Props to the Uber driver for saving this guy some time though. Maybe as a fellow short king himself, he had to do whatever he could to help a brother out.
I love you, man.
He even suggested that she shouldn't waste this guy's time if she's not interested in him, but maybe she's just loving all the attention he gives her. Him leaving her out in the cold is brutal though, but I guess when you're hurt, you're hurt. I haven't checked the comments yet, but I wouldn't be shocked if there were a lot of women who didn't agree with what this guy did. But we'll get to that in a second.
You didn't even have the decency to call me one back?
Why should I?
So now I'm sitting here standing stupid. I'm like, "What you talking about?" I'm like, what I do? He like, "Yeah, the Uber driver already told me we good. You don't like me because I'm short, I'm this." I said, the Uber driver never answered me when I'm texting him telling him I'm down the street after I done lied and said I was on Hoover and this and that. What? Yeah, you get a 0-star rating from me. Okay? Mr. King.
I don't know why she was acting so shocked, asking, "What did I do?" She wasn't even feeling him, so she should just accept how things turned out. While I get why she's upset with the Uber driver because she felt like she could trust him,
I trusted you.
at the end of the day, he saved everyone some time. It's a good thing that this guy cut this shit off though, and I bet there are loads of guys out there who would have still tried to win her over. Now, I did take a look at the comments, and I guess I was wrong about a lot of women going in on the guy for leaving her ass outside. This is what they were saying. I get it, and I don't. Why even go over there playing? Why was you even linking with him in the first place? You had no business staying in contact with someone that you don't like. The entire comment thread pretty much carried on like this, so hopefully she learned a lesson or two from this whole experience.
So yesterday I went on a date with this guy and it was our second date. And the sad part is the date was like super fun, super great. We do have some differences on how we want to live our adult lives. So we might need to like double click into that later. But for the most part, like I'm really enjoying my time with him, right? So I'm really into reading. So I brought my book with me, but it was too big to fit in my purse. So I just carried it the whole night. I got a little drunk. I got like espresso martini drunk and I ended up leaving my book at the bar. And so we were texting about it the next day and he was just like, oh, are you going to go like get your book? And I was like, you know what? I honestly probably won't. Like the bar is like 55 minutes away from me. Who's to say my book is even there? Like who's to say someone didn't steal it? I think the book was like $9 on Amazon. Like I'm just going to buy a new one. He said, okay, big ballin'. And if you don't understand the problem here, you're probably a part of the problem.
Okay, I'm confused right now.
I am definitely a part of the problem because I don't get it. I can only assume that one of three things is happening here. She's either annoyed at him for replying big balling to her message about buying a new book, which is exactly the kind of remark I would jokingly make. Second, she's expecting him to go back to the bar and pick it up. And the third option is that she's expecting him to buy her a replacement. If you guys have any thoughts on this, I'd love to know what they are in the comments. Personally, I wouldn't be going back to the bar to pick up a book because I'm nobody's errand boy, and since I would have paid for the date, I'm not going to be replacing it either. I'm not your caretaker, and as a grown woman, you should be able to handle things on your own. This is obviously one of those little tests that sometimes girls give to guys.
I don't need any test.
And honestly, I'd happily fail it with flying colors. And you know what? Before we move on to the next clip, I have to address the way she actually ended the video by saying, if you don't understand the problem, you're a part of the problem. I had to bring that up because women seem to think that everyone has telepathic abilities and can read their minds.
I can see it clear as day.
If this is any indication as to how she communicates her thoughts and feelings to her actual partners, I see nothing but trouble for whoever she ends up with down the road.
How do we get younger women to see that heterosexual marriage is a raw deal before they do it? Really what you need to do is ask them some more probing questions about what their beliefs actually are and what their assumptions are. Ask them what appeals to them about marriage and how they think marriage is going to benefit them. Ask them what they think a husband should bring to a marriage and what they think a wife should bring to a marriage. And if they see any inequalities when they think about that a bit more. You can use this line of questioning as an opportunity to then disabuse a young woman of her assumptions about what it actually is and what it is going to involve. Young women especially get fed this narrative that marriage is the final stage of adulthood, that it will confer social status, that it is the ultimate expression of romance, and that being picked or favored by a man is the best validation of their existence on the planet.
It's not just women who are fed narratives about what it means to be married. There are more than enough stories of men out there who've been screwed over by this whole thing. The idea of marriage being a raw deal is because of how much things have changed over recent years. These days, everyone seems to be more about themselves than anything else. And with people no longer needing each other, the original purpose of a marriage is losing its value. Marriage isn't for everyone, and honestly, the divorce rates being what they are, I don't think it's for most people. Whether you're a man or woman, before getting married to someone, you both have to make sure you're on the same page about things and have a plan for the future.
And none of these things is true. Heterosexual marriage, in addition to de facto domestic cohabitation with a man, tricks women into facilitating men's domestic and social success.
It's a trap!
Women do this by performing most of the domestic and caring labour around those men, while gradually dismantling the scaffolding of the things that were actually empowering them as women. Marriage removes women's names and in large part their identities. Marriage forces women to maintain the emotional health of one man at the expense of prioritising a healthy, emotionally supportive group of close friends. Marriage makes it harder to leave in the event of the relationship turning sour or if there is abuse. Marriage can have unexpected financial and tax-related consequences. For example, in the USA, if you get married to someone, you get saddled with their debt regardless of whether you were involved in accruing that debt or if you even knew that it was happening.
Well, that's not fair.
On that note, marriage means tying your health and safety to someone else who you might think you can trust now, but in the future could really endanger your well-being. And marriage statistically improves men's health and happiness while diminishing women's well-being. So hopefully you can make a good case against it now.
I'm curious as to why she specified heterosexual marriage, as if the alternative is superior in some way, but let's not get into that right now. Just as you can say marriage tricks women into facilitating a man's success, you can also say that it forces a man to hand over all the resources he's gathered to someone else. Marriage is a constant exchange, and for it to work, it takes both people to give and take. It's two people coming together, joining their families, and hopefully, making life just that little bit easier. Unfortunately though, this isn't how things typically work out in the West, because as I said earlier, everyone's all about themselves and have no interest in serving the needs of others, which is a shame. Also, I don't see why somebody wouldn't put their partner's needs and emotional well-being before their friends. I mean, this is the person they've chosen to do life with. When you have kids with someone, your priorities change. You don't have to cut off your friends or anything like that, but for most people, the needs of their family will always come first. There are certain laws around marriage and divorce that should be updated to reflect the times we live in, but I don't think it's something that needs to be completely done away with, not just yet. If you're not able to choose wisely when it comes to relationships, you're bound to have negative experiences. And unfortunately, picking a good partner isn't easy, which is why having a family involved in this process is so important in many places. The way marriage is today is far from perfect, and it's a big risk, but that's for both men and women. And how she talks about things in this video makes it seem like men get all the benefits and women get none, which just isn't the reality of things.
The reason that men get so pissed off every time an OF girl comes out and says how much money she's made is because they don't like that women have found a way with OF to financially benefit in an insane way from a system that the male gaze and the patriarchy not only created but uphold.
The male gaze.
Yeah.
I've seen so many baffled takes on here from men over the past 24 hours saying, oh, they can't believe how much, 43 million in 1 year, Sophie Rain, blah, blah. And I'm not saying that there isn't some like murky morality with the entire industry, because there is. But ultimately, it annoys them so much that is how much men like to look. They like to look $43 million worth.
While I think there are men out there who are jealous about how much money some women are able to make on OnlyFans, I don't know if that's the majority. The girl who was able to make $43 million in 1 year was shocking, but more than anything, it's just a sad representation of how desperate men are.
I need her.
The guys out there who are upset about how much money girls can make on OnlyFans are probably signed up to some of them. So if they don't like the fact that they're losing their resources in such a lopsided fashion, they should stop opening their wallets. Aside from all that though, I can see why some men get kind of annoyed by OnlyFans, because to make the money that the top creators are making on that site, they'd really have to grind and excel at something, but for these girls, it seems to come easy. Still, this isn't their fault, and like she alluded to in this video, men only have themselves to blame for this. And to add to that, there's only a tiny percentage of women on OnlyFans who are making the killing. The majority of women on there are just about getting by.
I'm broke, nigga, I'm broke! frustrating reality is that if you are a woman and you want to date men, you have to accept that you will have to teach them and you will have to hold them accountable. And there are so many reasons for this, but I believe that the main reason is friendship. Women have so much more practice in elements of having a relationship than men do, because from a young age, we have access to vulnerability and intimacy and connection in a way that men do not get until their first partner. For most women, even when we are as young as like 8 years old, we are learning about how to set boundaries. We are learning about how to communicate because we have best friends, because we are best friends with other women. We are learning about what intimacy and connection means.
Men and women are very different, and how we see and operate in the world is very different too. And while I'd agree that women are more social than men in a lot of cases, their friendships are more volatile. It's not a secret to anyone that women are more emotionally driven than men, which is something that can negatively affect their relationships. You can see this in how young girls, and even grown-ass women, gossip about their friends or other women, and sometimes it's because they're competing for the attention of a desirable man. Women aren't often physically aggressive, but the indirect way in which they deal with things can be just as devastating, at least on a mental level. Even though women may learn how to communicate and form friendships more efficiently than men from a young age, they still suck at it when it comes to communicating within a relationship.
Tell me about it.
And men do develop these skills. It's just that male friendships manifest differently, which doesn't make them less valuable because of that. And they don't just learn about emotional connections through romantic relationships. This is really oversimplifying what men experience growing up and even later on in life.
And even if you are dating a man with the best of intentions, that is kind and that listens, and when you rant about the patriarchy and how much men suck, they agree with you.
Yes, my queen.
And they're not defensive and they're so open to everything that you say. It doesn't matter how good their intentions are, you will always have to teach them. I don't really feel like men can ever catch up to women. Like, this definitely lessens as you get older. Like, I'm 25 now, so the dating range of men that I would engage with is like 25 to 30, and almost all of them will have had multiple relationships. But if a man has had like 2 or 3 relationships from age 18 to 26, let's say, how is that going to make up for 18 years of not having real practice?
As a man, why would I sit there and agree with a woman talking about how much men suck as if women are these perfect angels who can do no wrong?
My God, you're perfect.
And as I said previously, just because men grow and develop their relationships differently to women, it doesn't make them incompetent, which is how this woman is coming across, as if grown men are children who need to be taught how to behave. When she talks about men not being able to catch up to women emotionally, she's implying that how women express themselves is the right and only way to do so. Just because men may express how they feel in other ways, or not at all in some cases, maybe that's what works best for that person.
With connection and communication and boundaries. I genuinely think that this societal idea of like women mature faster than men is not entirely innate. It's not entirely due to the nature of being a woman. So much of it is due to the fact that we are held accountable by close connections and close proximity to others from day one. And I feel like we're seeing a societal trend right now of women refusing to date men, which I totally get. Like, it's something I've taken space of. But this whole idea of going boy sober, it sort of just perpetuates this, right? Because as long as we live in a society where men can only practice connection through their romantic connections with women, this is always going to be a problem. In the least pick me way possible, I feel like I have a lot of empathy for men and for the male experience. I've had male partners, I have, a lot of male friends, and I've talked about this with all of them. And I just don't think that this is something that can be solved easily on an individual level. Like, even if you are a man that has the utmost awareness of this dilemma and really endeavors to solve issues with emotional vulnerability and intimacy, you can't talk to a wall. You need other people.
No hope. There's no hope here.
Women not being held accountable is one of the most talked about things in the dating space, so I don't know where she was heading with that one. And I think it's wrong to say that until a man's had a romantic relationship, he hasn't or can't share a bond or connection with a friend, a father figure, a mentor, or just about anyone else he's interacted with. Being with a woman in a romantic sense isn't the only way for guys to feel connected. And while how they do things may not always be recognizable to her, it doesn't mean they're incapable of it.
to pursue friendship and connection the same way that you do. Men get so triggered on here when I use the word patriarchy, but this is what I mean when I say that the patriarchy hurts men just as much as it hurts women. It perpetuates male loneliness because this idea that we have of masculinity, this performative masculinity, perpetuates male loneliness. And whilst women who date men are severely frustrated by this increasing lack of dateable men, I think it's because men have less practice with connection than ever before as capitalism is ramped up and community is more and more disconnected than it's ever been before. Frustrating as this all is, I do feel like women at least have each other. They at least have the vulnerability of sisterhood, the vulnerability of being able to safely be emotional, whereas I feel like men are just getting lonelier and lonelier and lonelier, and we're seeing like ramped up levels of incel culture and even violence. I'm not at all making this video to excuse men for their poor behavior or to excuse them from taking accountability or to say that you should lower your standards when it comes to dating men. You absolutely should not. I'm more just making it to say that the conversation as to why the dating landscape is so bad is multifaceted and stems from how lonely society has become.
The reason why men get annoyed when women mention patriarchy is because it's a buzzword that a lot of people use solely because they've heard others use it. Performative masculinity is what allowed us to survive throughout history, and I'm talking about a time way before we had any sort of stable shelter or regular food supply. Just because the world we're living in now is pretty damn comfortable thanks to technology, our biology hasn't changed, so our instincts are as they have been for the longest time. And the fact is, if a man doesn't perform, he'll be invisible to women, because by nature, women look for certain traits in men, traits that'll increase their own chance for survival. Modern dating is the mess it is for many reasons, but I don't think men's supposed inability to be emotional is the main cause for it. Dating is a free-for-all these days. Almost anyone can connect with anyone from anywhere in the world, which means the competition is tough. Since men are the ones who usually make the first move, women are in a position where they can take up the best offer, which ultimately results in only a select number of men getting any play. The men who can't compete are left out in the cold, which is a major factor as to why more and more men are becoming victims of this loneliness epidemic. Anyway, guys, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. And of course, don't forget to subscribe.